Right guys, welcome back to the workshop. So you may or may not have noticed that I didn't upload a video this Sunday, just gone. A few reasons for that. One, personal reasons. Two, Christmas is looming extremely quick. And three, which is probably the main reason, is I really couldn't be bothered. I've not actually been out in the workshop because I just haven't been in the right frame of mind. I have, however, managed to do a couple of smallish jobs which I've wanted to do in the workshop. I've recorded it because my intention was to include that in an upcoming video, but as that's the only footage I've got, what I've decided to do is edit it down and make a quick update type video, just in case there's a couple of people that just might be interested in me doing not a lot in the workshop. Right, so the first job I wanted to do was rip down the French cleats from around about 32mm down to 19mm. The reason I made them so chunky in the first place was because I was using salvaged hotel skirting boards that were around about 30 to 32mm in thickness, but since the workshop's all been painted, I want to rip them down to about 19mm because I think that'll look much better on the wall. Don't normally like doing cuts like this on a table saw when the blade is quite high up, but I just took the time and it was fine. So once I'd ripped them down to 19mm thick, I then ran them through just to take off the sharp edge. Now cutting these French cleats down did actually do me a big favour, which you'll find out about later on in the video. Then I could give them a super quick sand down just to remove any furry bits and soften up the edges a little bit. So once that was done, I could actually start putting them back on the wall. I've worked out roughly how much space I want in between each cleat, and I start out by just driving a single screw in this centre, and then that gives me the ability to actually level it out and drive in more screws. These are actually being screwed directly into the studs in the wall. So when I first done the cleats, I used some salvaged hotel skirting boards which were around about 30 to 32mm thick. So now that I've actually ripped the cleats down to 19mm thereabouts, it's left me with these thin strips. Now they're around about 10mm in thickness. So I didn't actually think of this at the time, but once I'd ripped them down and I was looking at these pieces, these are going to make ideal trim for the bottom of my mitre station cabinets. Where I've got the adjustable feet, the cabinets are actually raised off the floor, so a lot of the dust and debris gets underneath, and I spoke in a previous video that I wanted to put some trim around. Well, now I've got the perfect bit of trim. It's got a 45 on, which I'm going to leave on there anyway. And all I'm going to do is rip it down a little bit because this top edge is quite mothy, so I'm going to leave the 45 on it, rip it down a little bit, and then trim out the bottom of my cabinets. Happy days. So like I've said, I've left the 45 on it, but I am going to run the pieces through the table saw again just to remove the sharp edge, and that should give me a fairly good looking profile on the top edges of the trim. I also needed to fill the original screw holes because I'm not going to be using those. So once the filler was dry, I gave them all a super quick sanding down. So to start with, I thought I was going to be able to hog out a little area at the back of the trim just to sit it over the levelling feet, but it turns out the trim I'm using is about 10mm and it's not quite thick enough. So what I'm doing is cutting out a small section of the foot itself, and then I can take my trim router and just hog out a little bit of the trim on the back side, and that will allow me to actually sit the trim nice and flush against the cabinets. This doesn't have to be neat because no one's going to see this. Right, just to check what this angle is, because it's not guaranteed to be square because I built these. I'm going to use this miter saw protractor. If you want to see a quick video on this, if you've never seen one before, let me know in the comments and I'll make a quick video on it. But all you do basically is put that on the corner, make sure it's pushed up against it, and then you've got like a dial on it, and you can see from that that it is more or less bang on 45. So what I like to do when I'm doing things like this is cut it slightly oversize, and then you can just nibble away at it until you get it spot on. So what I'm going to do is get them where they need to go, get the mitre looking halfway decent, and then I can tack it in place. So that's where it needs to be. And all I'm going to do, I'm not going to use any glue on this, I'm just going to fire in some brads at a bit of an angle just to pin it in place. I am going to put some glue on that bit just to strengthen the corner a little bit. You'll also notice that I'm trying to alternate the angles that I'm putting the nails in. I find if you put things in straight, there's more chance that the trim could be knocked off. Whereas if you alternate the angles, for example, one angle to the right, one angle to the left, there's less chance that the trim's going to be knocked off. So if you look really closely at the front corner on the side piece, you'll see there's a very slight gap, and that's because some complete and utter idiot didn't cut the front piece of trim to the correct length, and he didn't realise that until he had already pinned it in place. So I'm going to have to fill that in. So all in all, ripping the cleats down actually turned out to be a great idea, because it also gave me enough material that I could trim out the underside of my mitre station, closing in all the gaps. Now, I know it's a completely different colour to the rest of the units, but I do plan on painting the fronts of the units anyway, so I'll probably just do that to match. So I apologise for the lack of interest in content on the channel recently, but I'm sure most of you are aware that I recently repainted the entire workshop. I've laid the floor in, and I'm only just beginning to get the workshop back into a usable state. I've got plenty of things planned for the workshop moving forward, so hopefully in the new year I'll be back to butchering some wood and building some stuff. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for stopping by and supporting the channel, and most of all I want to wish you all a happy Christmas and a happy new year, just in case I don't post any more videos over the Christmas period. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and until the next video, stay safe and you'll see me in the next one. Cheers for watching, guys.